Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of Orthodox Spirit. We are having a collab episode this week. I have George and Simon from the Salt Podcast.
Thanks, Mike. Very lovely to meet you and to have this experience with you.
Thanks, Mike
Oh,
Mackey.
likewise. I'm glad you guys had some time to do this. I think it's really cool and it's really important. I see it as something that's growing and something that's like starting to become more of an interest for a lot of people. I wanted to maybe get started with kind of getting a background on like what got you guys started doing the podcast.
Sure. Before we get into that, I just want to say that, it's 3 a.m. your time and it's 8 p.m. our time. So you definitely got the short end of the stick. So we really appreciate you adding to our time schedule. But I'll let Simon maybe tell the story because he's a good storyteller.
So I will preface by saying this was George's idea from the start. He always, because everyone's obviously on social media, so he always wanted to be able to have some sort of good content on social media because he realized that not everyone's going to be on their phones, but if we can at least put some good stuff out there, then that's what matters. So what happened was he approached me and he said, I'd like to do a podcast, just a short form content where we interview priests and then we go from there. And I was very, very reluctant due to my work and my outside life. I didn't think I'd have enough time to be able to put the effort that he wanted me to. This was in February of this year, so about 6 months ago, I'd say. So he kept being very persistent, and that's one thing we're going to keep getting back to on this podcast. George is extremely persistent. They're one of the most persistent people you ever meet. So after he heard about 50 no's from me, he finally on the 51st attempt got a yes. And so we interviewed Father Yaub. He is a priest in Sydney, Australia. He heads St. Mark's Church. So we interviewed him. That was about a 2 hour podcast, I'd say. And the first episode, we were I'll speak for myself, I was very tense, didn't know sort of what was going to happen. But ever since then, I'd say God has blessed us dramatically. We've gotten, I'd say, very lucky through hard work, and George has definitely steered the ship in the right direction. So, George, do you have any input about that?
Yeah, I think you summarized it quite well. For me, it was the root cause was I wanted to evangelize, and
Mm.
I'm an outgoing guy, but I'm not outgoing enough to just start talking to people in the street and say, hey, do you love Jesus?
Right.
Or like people nowadays, they're on planes and they just like get up in the middle of the plane while it's in the air and they're just like, hey guys, just want your attention. Jesus
Mm.
loves you. I can't do that. And I just started getting really convicted, and I felt in my heart like, when I die one day, is what's God going to say to me? He's going to say, did you talk about me? Did you preach to me? And in general, I do preach to like people that already know. Like Simon, me
Mm.
and him have gone back and forth about Christianity a lot, and like in general, because of the age gap, like during his formative years, he was a bit of a troublemaker, so I had to step in a little bit and kind of guide him a little bit as much as I could in a humble way, of course. But with that said, like I'm always good at talking about Jesus and God and Christianity with people that already believe, but I don't really have much of an avenue to talk to people that don't. So
Mm.
that was maybe the most driving factor was like, okay, let's do a podcast. And I started to listen to a lot more podcasts. So that also inspired me. I said, hey, maybe I can do that. And the whole point, actually, George Janko played a big role in this because I saw his podcast shifting and talking more about Christ, and the way he did it, I really appreciated, really liked that he was coming from a learning point of view. And, I thought if he can do that, surely I can do that too. It's the least I can do. I can try.
Mm.
Right.
So that was the thing, wanting to evangelize and then wanting to kind of get a way to reach not just Coptic or Orthodox people, not just Orthodox people, not just Christian people, but people that may be lost or in despair, scrolling through social media aimlessly, and then they find, for example, one snippet that has hope. And thank God we've had a whole bunch of snippets that have gone quite viral and had millions of views and comments, and that's the whole point. The reach,
Absolutely.
it's really heartwarming to see that the content's getting somewhere.
Mm.
Right. Yeah. No, that's amazing. Has that always been something that interested you, or was this something new when it comes to not necessarily evangelizing, but talking to people about God?
Yeah, I mean, I've always done it growing up. as a, even going through school, I'd always talk to my friends. Like if I had friends from other faiths, or if I had even just Protestant friends, I'd always be in theological discussions with them, trying to get them to see the light, as I used to think naively back then. But that was my point of view. I was like, no, they have to know that, it's the body and blood. And even I would have conversations with my Christian studies teachers, like during lunch and recess, just to talk to them about how I think that they're wrong. That
Oh
they don't,
wow,
Yeah.
that
you are a horrible.
yeah, no, but it was good. They were really good conversations. And actually, I think one of my pastors, I ended up getting him to actually believe that it was body and blood, which I thought was like I was in maybe year 8, and he was
Uh,
a pastor, and I eventually got him to the point of accepting that it has to be body and blood of Christ. So I always like talking about God. It's always an interesting topic, but I just never knew how or what to do with this passion. And I think the podcast was a great avenue. And of course, when I decided to do the podcast, I didn't want to do it alone. The Bible's very big on, doing things 2 by 2 and having someone. So if you fall, you have someone else to carry you. So that was a big part. I needed to find a really suitable partner. And thank God I have Simon, who's a handsome, funny, outgoing guy. And I thought he would add the right flavor to the podcast. And I think, thank God, that was one of the best decisions that I made.
no, you
I'm
guys
able.
seem like a good team, man.
Yeah, we were we've been very close long before this podcast. George and I have known each other for, I'd say, now going on 8 9 years now.
Almost
Yeah,
10, I
yeah,
think.
almost there. Since I was a young kid, we've always been close. And like you said earlier, just exaggerating a little bit, he always sort of kept me in line when I was younger, because it's important to have that sort of role model where you look up. I don't want to say look up to, but
You
you
can,
you, you
say
look
it.
up to him a little bit, and he's definitely some God sends people in your life for certain reasons, and I can tell you, George has been sent by God for a good reason. So
Well,
yeah,
that's very
thank
sweet,
God.
Simon. Thank you. You're
Yeah,
like a
that's a
son to me.
huge blessing, man. That's it's not every day that you find somebody to do something like this with, you know? Do you guys have like a big Coptic community in Australia?
Oh,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Really big one.
Really?
Actually, we come the biggest churches, St. Mark's Church is huge. I mean, on a Sunday, I think they have like almost maybe 7 or 8 liturgies running at once. They have like a kids liturgy, a high school liturgy, Arabic one, an early one, English one. I think there's maybe what 5 or 10,000 families maybe
definitely,
in St. Mark's
Uh,
Church. So that's a big church. And then
among other
literally
churches as
five
well.
minutes down the road is another one, St. Mary's, which is another big congregation. So
Mhm.
I think Sydney, we're blessed. We have quite a big community here.
and aside from the churches, is there like monasteries as well? I'm not too familiar with the area, so I'm coming at it from a completely blank slate.
Yeah, there is a beautiful monastery here, Saint Shnurda's Monastery. I've been out there a few times. It's filled with amazing people, and the monks there. If you ever get a chance to visit here, you should definitely see them. It's a blessing.
Yeah, God willing, I'll make it out there one day, man. But how have you seen the podcast not only impact the people that view your stuff online, but also view or impact your own personal life, like since you guys started?
Very good question, George.
Well, okay. First part, definitely seen a wide range of people through interacting with us. Like a lot of our viewers have reached out to us on a number of levels, whether it's, for example, somebody reaching out because they really were touched by one of our guests and they want to get a hold of them. And like one example is that comes to my mind is there was a family in Armenia that was going through quite a hard time. I think their mum was sick with cancer, and
Mm,
the one thing that got them through it was Bishop Marmari's sermons. They, as a family, they'd sit together and they'd listen to him, and they said that that was like a rock. So they reached out to us and said, uh, is there any way? It's my sister's birthday. We've had a really rough year. Is there any way we can get Bishop Marmari to call her? I was like, okay, that's a
it's a big
Bishop
ask.
Marmari
Yeah.
I mean, it was hard for us to get a hold of him, to be honest.
Hmm.
But I said, you know what? I'm going to try. So I tried to coordinate it, and Bishop Marmari, honestly, one of the most genuine guys. He is such a good man. Like he said, of course, don't worry, let me call them. And he called the sister. He said, okay, when's her birthday? Let me call her. And then the girl sent me a clip of when he called the girl, and she was in tears,
Mm,
crying,
tears of
so
joy.
moved by that love. So yeah, that's an example of like just an interaction we've had. We've had other interactions where people have reached out for guidance in terms of, not knowing which church to attend, to people that, for example, someone in Saudi Arabia who
Oh,
is actually African, and she was involved in witchcraft. And then she reached out to us and said, I was involved in witchcraft. I don't know what to do. I get nightmares. My kids get nightmares. So then I coordinated with a priest and got the advice, which is I've learned a whole bunch of stuff, like in terms of what they need to do, how to get out of that stuff. And I relayed that advice to her, and we translated like the Psalms that he asked to read into her native language. So yeah, it's just a wide range from just like really cute stuff like can the guest call me on my birthday, to like, hey, I was involved in witchcraft, can you help me?
Mm.
So that's definitely a wide range of interaction with our viewers. In terms of our life, I'll let Simon answer.
In terms of our personal lives, I've always, like, speaking for myself now, I've always struggled to find a service within the church because I know it's important, especially when you reach your 20s and in George's case your 30s.
You
It's
had to
very
point that out, didn't you? You're waiting,
um, it's very important to have a service that you're committed to. That way you don't stray too far away. And I struggled with the concept of finding a service that I would fall in love with. So God obviously sent George in my path to offer the podcast. But with the podcast, I always had one goal in mind, like George said, which is if just one person can come a little bit closer to God through the content, then we're doing our job as best as we can. It's not for anything else but the glory of God. And like I come from a big family. I've got four brothers, and we try to go to church as much as possible. But to hear, like, for example, my brothers or my mother talk about the podcast or talk to her friends about like the things that go on, for me it's a heartwarming thing for me because we're coming together for the glory of God. Do you know what I mean?
right,
We're just small tools in his hand, and that's probably one of the best feelings that you can have. Like, sometimes I sit down with my mum and like her friends will call her about the podcast and I'm around and I don't know what to do. I just start smiling or just go up. So it's definitely impacted. And even people that you see in church, they may not know you, but they'll know you as maybe someone who's spoken to this priest and that what they've learned from that priest. So like I said, anything where we're just able to give glory to God, that's more gain than we'll ever need in our life. So yeah.
right.
yeah.
Yeah, and
I
and
think
and go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say on that point, the other way it's kind of impacted our life, it's kind of, we find a lot of challenge. Like ever since we started the
Mm.
podcast, this is something that we keep finding. Everything's become more difficult. Like,
Everything.
every time we have an episode, like some things will go wrong or obstacles will come in our way.
Mm.
Even just from our second episode, we were meant to, if you saw our episode with Father Bishoy, literally the night before, he was like
Yeah.
on the news getting with someone at gunpoint knocking on his door and trying to break into his room. And we found that out like at 11 p.m. the night before we were going to fly to Queensland to interview him. We had like a 6 a.m. flight. And then we got there, and then we had a very small window of time that we booked the studio, and then we gave him a location, and he went to a different location, to a different cafe that apparently there's a franchise, so there's a different location, and then we had to find him in the streets and bring him.
You can't
Like,
make this up. I
it's
promise
just,
you cannot
Right,
make
yeah, it's just stuff. We realize that there's been a lot of challenges, and we know that God's trying. Oh, not God, sorry. The devil is
Mm.
trying to stop our work for sure. We can feel that.
right. Yeah, it seems like that's a common thing that happens when you start to put out content like this. And like how important is it to you that there is content like this online and not just meaningless, scrolling on tons of other things that you could be doing?
Mm.
Definitely one of our biggest motivations was to do that, because I think, like, having kids, I have kids myself, and I don't know what the world's going to look like for them when they grow up. With all the like rubbish content that's online, all the filth that's online, you can't scroll, three scrolls without seeing something obscene. So I
Right,
think the more we can push really wholesome content, and the more, I mean, this is why I always tell Simon we have to get people to subscribe and to like and to comment, because that's what circulates. Like, we have to use technology to our advantage, right? So the more people that support us and like and comment, subscribe, it picks up in the algorithm, it circulates more eyes are going to see it. Which is, me and Simon get caught up in this because we kind of get stuck looking at the numbers, and if something doesn't do well, we get a bit annoyed. But then we say, well, stay on track, don't get distracted. But it's the mission is to spread it to millions of people.
Absolutely.
That's the mission, and we're kind of perfectionists in that way, or we always set high targets. So I want to. If we got a clip that got 1 million, I'm like, why isn't it on 2 million? Like, let's reach as many people as possible. And that's the idea. Like, we don't want to really give up, the fight against technology and let technology be a bad thing. We want to use technology for, to propagate God's word.
Right, because it's not going anywhere, right? Like, I mean, we're gonna have to use it one way or another. So, I mean, it's only right that you put out the stuff that you want people to benefit from. I mean, even with ours, like when we started, I didn't know why, or I didn't know what to do really. I even told Father Lazarus, like, I don't think I'm the right person to be doing this. Like, I felt a lot out of place, and the more and more I did it, and the responses I got, and seeing that people were actually genuinely benefiting from it, it's crazy. It's honestly amazing. And I think in recent years there's been more of a more of a demand, more of at least in the next generation, the younger generation, more of a want to have that type of content. It's like they're more intrigued when it comes to God. They're more they're just more interested for some reason. And I asked this a lot to a lot of the people I interview, but why do you think that is? Why do you think that all of a sudden you see this like increase of curiosity in God, and like them moving in that direction?
What do you think?
Well, I think as I'll speak for myself. I think as humans we all struggle day to day, and this, like you said, technology isn't going to go away at any point, Mike. So what's happening now is we're trying to use what technology can offer, which is it's just going to constantly take our time. We're trying to use that for the betterment. I speak for myself. When I'm having a bad day, unfortunately, I'm not going to open my Bible straight away as a tool to go and learn about God. I may be on my phone. So if I'm scrolling and I'm able to see, for example, a clip of your podcast, The Orthodox Spirit, or Bishop Murray speaking, and just hearing someone talk about their love for God and what God's done for them in their life, it's very reassuring. It brings you back. Brings you back on track. So I think with everyone, we're all struggling in our lives. No matter what the struggle is, there is definitely struggle, and just being able to have that curiosity to want to know God on a deeper level, whether it's through technology, whether it's through going to church, or whatever avenue you want to go to, as long as that curiosity is there, that'll always be a good thing. And the content that you put out, or that the Salt podcast puts out, if that can help steer someone in their relationship towards God being a little bit closer, then I'd say we are doing our job, and we should also be taking notes in order to not just put out the content, but truly learn from what's being said by our guests and by the people that we hear from a lot.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think also the reason why a lot of youth are searching for something more or are more curious is because there's a lot of darkness in the world. And I think when you experience that darkness, you kind of need light to overcome it. So
Absolutely.
that's where people are searching for the light. And I think actually this kind of content, especially short form, because everyone's now trained to have an attention span of 6 seconds. So if you
6 seconds or less.
if you can put out something that, rather than makes them feel worse, like when they're scrolling and they see an image, maybe me, like I'll be scrolling and I see a guy that's jacked and ripped, and I'll be like, oh, I'm not like that, I feel bad. There's a lot of content.
So no, you are.
You know what? Simon will be scrolling and he'll see someone with a full head of hair. And he'll be like, oh. You know what I mean? Same thing.
That's where we're going with it. Okay.
You know what I mean? So, like, rather than having those negative things, like when you're scrolling through and you actually see something that uplifts you and makes you feel, makes you feel better or warmer inside, then I guess that sparks that curiosity, and that's why the younger generation are like, hey, this actually gives me a feeling that's different from all the other crap that I see. So
Right. Yeah, and especially nowadays, if it's starting to feel like we're kind of in end times in a way. I don't know how to put my finger on it exactly, but you get that like feeling, and then it's more of like an urgency to run to the right side. You know what I mean? Because yeah, you see the world, and it's kind of like in a way falling apart. There's a lot of things that are not the way they should be. There's like you said, a lot of darkness, and I think like podcasts like yours are kind of a breath of fresh air. It it's it's honestly very very comforting that to see that there's a lot of people in the younger generation kind of flocking in that direction. It gives me hope. It definitely, yeah, it gives me the sense of relief that maybe it's not so bad. When it comes to doing these interviews and stuff, are these all things that kind of you, when you're dealing with or interviewing certain guests, are you speaking and asking questions from things going on in your own personal experience, or is this something that is just based off of like what they usually talk about?
I think from the very beginning we wanted to be a bit unique with our questions, like
Mm.
depending on the guest. Excuse me, we'd kind of change our format. So, for example, Father Jacob, one of like the senior priest at a very big church, no one really knows much about. He doesn't speak about himself.
Mm.
So the idea with him was, hey, let's show people a different side of him. Where did he grow up? What's his family like? What spiritual challenges did he face growing up? So when we had someone like that, we asked the questions that we were just curious because no one's ever asked him. When we
Right.
have someone like Bishop Murray, the shift changes because he's like a polarizing figure that a lot of people look to. That's global. So we need to be a bit broader and see, okay, what would people, if the general population was sitting in front of him, what do they want to hear from him?
Mm.
So it just really depends on the guest. And I'm like we said, we always plan big. So I already have a list of people that one day hopefully I'm going to reach, and I already have a list of questions ready for those specific people. So,
Yeah.
like someone like Candace Owens or someone like George Janko or someone like Jordan Peterson, these are names that I'd love to sit across from and talk to. So I already have questions lined up for these people based on, what I think would be really interesting to ask them that other people haven't asked, and, good conversations like that.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys seem like, from at least from somebody from the outside looking in, it seems like you guys have always had a very good relationship with the church. If I'm not mistaken, that's what it seems like, and your guys' knowledge on Christianity, especially Orthodoxy, is yeah, pretty good, man. Like I'm coming from somewhere that, like I said, I kind of drifted off and circled back. So yeah, I didn't have all of the knowledge going in, but you guys seem like you've always been like kind of tightly knit into the like Christian community. Is
Well,
is is that how it's been since you guys were younger?
Well, for me, like I've grown up in the church, definitely. My parents have instilled that. I'm very blessed to have very great parents that, made me fall in love with the church at a young age. I was always like, I think my parents used to punish me by telling me, you're not going to church on Saturday for the Holy Psalmody. Like that was a
Uh,
punishment. And I'd be so upset. So if I did something wrong at school, they'd be like, all right, you're not going to church. And that they knew that they felt bad punishing me like that, but it's because I loved it so much. So I was very blessed to always love like the church and the hymnology and um, you know, I would say when I was younger, I actually read a lot more than I do now. Being really busy with like you just realize with life when you have, a family and kids and work, your spiritual life takes a little bit of a backseat when it shouldn't. It should really be
right.
front and center, but it unfortunately it does when you're so busy. And that was another reason why I started the podcast because I thought, you know what, let me have a project that will force me to be more on top of my spiritual life, more on top of like spiritual topics. Because if I didn't have that motivation, oh, I have a guest, I need to read, I need to look up, I need to, pray about it. Like if that encourages me to kind of include God more in our life. So Yeah, I don't even know what I'm talking about now.
No, you're okay, man. And it seems like I kind of piggybacking off of your point. When you do something like this, you kind of are, at least again speaking from my experience doing it so far, you're kind of a representation of Christianity. So you have to conduct yourself a certain way, and there's certain things that you kind of think about a bit more now since you have been. Have you seen like that's been the same thing in your life since you began?
Simon, what do you think?
Um, not to make you sound wrong, Mike, from the last question, but I wasn't one of those people that was like I grew up my whole life in the church. Don't get me wrong, my family done a very good job in instilling that in me, but as some people get older and they leave school, for example, there's always a choice that gets made whether or not they want to stay in that church life or they want to sort of quote unquote experience the real world, which
Right,
I don't necessarily agree
Mm.
with. But when I was younger, I sort of was definitely facing that opposition of the two. So I wish I had a very similar upbringing to George, to where I was upset if my mum told me I'm not allowed to go to church. But I definitely tried my best to cling to God. But on that note, I feel like who you surround yourself with in your life is one of the most important things, because if you stay with those people who are raised in the church, then you don't feel the need to want to experience the fun of the outside world, so to speak, the
right,
going out, the case may be. But if you cling to the other side and you say, "Oh, they're just my friends, and I'm going to try and bring them closer to church," there's a very important it's a very important saying, that strength in numbers. One person can't do the job of 10 people. So I think when I was younger, I always tried to get the best of both worlds, and it's very hard because Bishop Murray said himself, he said, you can't please God and the world. You can't do both. So
right,
um, I think when I got older, I definitely understood the value and importance of the church and of seeking a continual relationship with God. Because without God, I don't know how else to describe it other than it's it's like a black hole in your heart. You don't you don't feel anything at any point in time, whether it's your highs or your lows. You're just sort of going through the motion. But when you have God and when you're trying to have a relationship with God all the time, there's a peace that you get filled with, and that's only from God. And with that peace brings other beautiful things, like you get to it's you think less, you stress less. All these things come with it when you understand that when God's in control, as our previous guests have said, when God's in control, there's not too much to worry about. So on that second point of your question, do you feel as though after the podcast you've had to sort of reshape your life? Absolutely, because it's very hard to sort of preach one thing and then do the opposite. And I'm not a perfect person, neither is George.
Hey, speak for
We,
yourself.
oh, sorry, he's got hair. I forgot. Um, um, so we definitely try and do good, as I'm sure you do, and the devil will always find a way to attack us. But if we just stay the course, and no matter how many times you fall, if you keep falling, just remember to always get back up. Don't fall in that state of despair where you feel as though you're worthless, or the sin repercussion is too hard for you to get up from, because it's never too late. So long as you confess and repent before God and our spiritual father, then you'll be all right.
Yeah, no, I can definitely relate, but man, I struggle constantly, dude. I struggle constantly and constantly falling. I even told a lot of the priests I interviewed before, like these are kind of just like mini therapy sessions for me, like more than
Yeah.
anything. Like that's been my experience with it. And to talk about your point about like you not growing up necessarily like in the church for a part of your life, I do know that that's not ideal, but again, at least in my own experience, there are pros to having experienced that. There, because you can relate to a lot of people that wouldn't be relatable if you didn't go through that. And there's a lot of people like I talk to nowadays where I understand them a lot more, because I did go through that phase. So I do think like it's not, like I said, not ideal, but there are pros to being able to relate to people outside of the church, and being able to have those conversations that might not necessarily be received in the best of ways from somebody that's maybe never stepped outside of the church. You know what I mean? Not that, like I said, it's not ideal, but it's definitely you're a place where you're able to have certain conversations that wouldn't have been had if you didn't experience that. Yeah.
I think what's
I,
beautiful about our God is that even he can use everyone, and
right.
as we've seen a lot, even the people that had the biggest weaknesses or that were clearly sinners, God can use. And definitely, I've seen that in my own service. Like I try and help people that are, some kids that have kind of lost their way or going down a track. And it's hard for me to relate if I haven't partaken in those kind of activities. Like if I was never much of a partier. So me telling them, hey, don't party, they don't really, it doesn't really vibe with them or
You don't
connect with them
connect with them, yeah.
because
Right.
they're like, but you don't know, or you don't drink, so
Mm-hmm.
you don't know. Definitely, I've worked with other servants who have had that kind of experience, and they're the ones that God uses just to bring back youth, and it's
Right.
essential that God can bring someone back and use them as a tool.
Mm.
Right. Yeah. And what do you see being like the goal of your podcast later down the line?
I mean, I think definitely increasing our reach. I mean, I keep setting goals like I want to get to, by the end of this year, I want to get to 100,000 subscribers. That way,
Yeah.
when we have 100,000 subscribers, then when we approach a guest, we have some legs to stand on. Hey, we have 100,000 subscribers. We'd love to have you on the podcast so we can reach to get a higher guest. Once we get that higher guest, then I always just keep thinking, it's just the way I'm wired. I always think big picture and I just have goals to grow it and have it as a platform that just reaches a lot of people and hopefully allows us to talk to a lot of people. Like I'd love to talk to, one of the two actually ex-prime ministers of Australia. One was Tony Abbott and one is Scott Morrison, because they're both quite religious and they've spoken about the Bible. I think Tony Abbott was like a training to be a minister at one stage and then he ended up not going down that path. So I want to reach these people because, they're people that would be very interesting. Somebody who ran a country. Imagine talking to them
Right.
on a Christian podcast and asking them what challenges did you face? How can you, how did you stay true to your morals and to your Christianity? Was there a divide or something trying to pull you away from your attachment to Christ while you were like running the country? That kind of stuff I find really interesting. I think a lot of people want to hear. So yeah, I just want to keep growing it so we can get even bigger guests, so we can get even more reach. That's my plan. What about you, Simon?
Yeah.
I think I'm not going to have a far different goal than my partner on the podcast, but um, to add to that point, I definitely, the most important thing is we don't lose sight or touch of the reason of why we started, and we always talk to each other about that, and we bring each other back. We're very blessed to be able to have two on a podcast, like George said, just to hold each other accountable. But even for you, just you haven't been doing this for a very long time, even though you've had a great success. But as you're going to keep getting more successful, I think the important thing is you always come back to your roots and you remember why you started
Yeah.
it, because the devil has a very, very good way of him of you us thinking that we've been able to trample on all these other sins, but then he'll bring another sin and another sin. So I
Mhm.
think as long as we just remember that no matter what, this is to glorify God. It's not about us. Yes, we can be ambitious. Yes, we can want to be able to spread the word of God. And George is definitely a very, very ambitious person, which is what I love about him. But we also always remember to try and hold each other accountable, to remember that this is all for the glory of God. So whatever happens, we know it's coming from his will. All we can do is our best. But yeah,
Right.
that the goal is to definitely get bigger and bigger and bigger in order to evangelize more and to reach more people with the word of God, hopefully.
Yeah, and to touch on your point right there, I think yeah, the only thing that's been kind of keeping me away from being messed with, from uh, evil, is being completely transparent about everything.
Mm.
Being transparent about like my struggles, being transparent about the stuff that was in my past, everything along those lines. Because one, I think if there's nothing hidden, then there's nothing to hide. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to worry about people saying whatever they may say about my past or what I continue to struggle with or anything like that. And two, I think it makes you a lot more relatable to a lot of people, and it makes them feel like it's okay to speak on these things, which is honestly like a huge goal of mine because I'm not sure if you guys know, but I deal with like depression and I've had like substance abuse problems and all types of things. But especially in our culture, some of those things are like stigma, kind of taboo, you know? Yeah, yeah. So it's not easily talked about, especially with kids growing up. So I do feel like there needs to be a safer place for kids to be able to talk about things like that, or else they're going to get advice from outside the community, and that's not always good. Yeah, I really think that's really important. And I I don't know. I think podcasts like yours and stuff like Christian based conversations, even that open the doors up to those types of conversations, are so necessary because without them, kids will grow up feeling like they have to go outside of their community or their family members or their friends, and yeah, that doesn't always end well, especially nowadays with. I don't know what it's like out there, but we have an increase in drug use. It's crazy out here. It's really bad, and kids get into it at a really young age, and it's really sad, and especially with things like even like being depressed or anxious. In our culture, maybe that's not taken as seriously as it should be. When I think it really should, it's something that's important to deal with at a younger age, or else it'll transpire into something bigger down the line.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've been? Go ahead. Sorry.
Was going to say part of the reason we kind of are doing this podcast independently and not really attached to a church, or it's not like a church organization that's running the podcast, it's just me and Simon doing it independently, is so we can not have those red tape situations and be able to talk
Right.
about all the topics. Because obviously if it's, hey, this is a podcast done by St. Mark's Church, then it represents St. Mark's Church and they may not want to talk about this
Certain
topic or that
things. Yeah.
topic. And it
Right.
might they might have gone, oh, don't have that guest. That guest was involved in this or that. We didn't want any of that. So we just had that decision early on where either we do it with the church or we do it separately. And then that way we don't have any red tape and we can just go through and have anyone on the podcast, have any conversation we need. Because, like you said, 100% we need to have these conversations because the youth need to hear from a safe environment this kind of information rather than going outside.
And
Yeah.
to your point, I know this is your episode, but I just want to give you your flowers, man. Like, not many people decide to open up, especially when whatever the case may be, they don't like to open up about their life. They sort of want to look as perfect as they can, which is fair enough. I don't try and judge that, but for you to be able to open up and to tell and to say, hey, this is my story, and for the youth or for anyone at that age that's going through something similar, let me explain to you how God impacted my life. So that's really, really respectful, man. We
Yeah.
we
No,
love that
thank you,
one.
man. I'm far from perfect, and honestly, I wouldn't have even started this podcast if it wasn't for Father Lazarus. He was the main force behind getting this started. I didn't even want to be on camera. I told him I felt like a hypocrite. I still deal with tons of stuff like in my everyday life, so it's not like it's all gone now since I started. No, it's if anything, it's a lot of it is harder than ever. And it seems like that was like a tactic the devil used to kind of sway me from what I should be doing. It's interesting to see how the closer you get to God, the more you're attacked. And I didn't really understand the entirety of what that meant until we started this podcast. And then you start to be like, okay, yeah, he's coming at me in every direction, and everything starts to be just a little bit tougher. And yeah, man, I think it's important to be as open as possible. And I like, aside from the podcast, in my everyday life, I am very transparent about everything that I deal with. The podcast was just a reflection of that, or that episode speaking about that stuff was just a reflection of that. Because yeah, I think transparency is like the key to one, being relatable to somebody going through it, and two, for somebody to receive your advice. They need to know you kind of been through the same thing, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I think definitely having the right frame of mind is very important because if you know that the closer you're getting to God, the more you're getting attacked, then you handle that well. You see that more attacks means you're on the right path, and that
Right,
actually encourages you. So for me, and I think Simon, every time we feel like we're getting attacked more or things are getting more difficult, or like even just getting to this podcast today, like, I had, my kids weren't sleeping and it was delaying me and all this stuff. I know that these are all stuff that the devil's putting in the way because we're about to do something good for God. So if you just
right,
frame it in that way, anytime something bad happens, you kind of smile a little bit. You say, okay, I know I'm doing the right thing. I know I'm on the right path because I'm just getting attacked so much. So yeah, I think frame of mind is the most important thing, because someone else, if they have the wrong frame of mind, they might give up. They say it's too hard. Obviously, God doesn't want me to do it if it's so hard. That's not the right mentality, and that's what the devil wants you to do. But if you have the right frame of mind, then actually you have a fire that burns harder and stronger because you know that you are on the right path, and the devil is attacking because he knows something good is coming out of this.
yeah. And how do you guys navigate when things like that happen? What's like some advice you'd give to somebody kind of dealing with it right now?
Go for it, Simon.
Um, I don't have as much wisdom as George due to his very old age, but someone were to ask me for advice on their struggles, I'd probably Uh, I know it sounds very like mundane, but it's the most important thing in this world, and that's prayer. I think when we pray to God, it's pure form of just conversation. It's where you're able to release all your emotion. Like I was speaking to a spiritual father, and I told him I'm speaking to God, and I feel as though like I'm not hearing anything back, or I'm not sort of getting what I want, so to speak. But once again, it's not transactional what we're asking for God. I don't spend 5 minutes of prayer and then expect something to come back. It's not the investment bank. You know what I mean? So I
Right,
think when he told me, he said, when you want to speak to God, speak to him. You have a relationship with him. If you had a relationship with your partner and you only spoke to them when you needed something from them, is it really a relationship? No. So
right,
I I think when we're able to have true, sincere, honest conversation, and it doesn't need to be putting your hands down, putting your head down, putting your hands together, and like there's someone taking a photo of you. Sometimes I'll be honest, I talk to God in the car alone,
Mm.
and
right.
people think I'm on the phone, but I just speak to God anytime I can. And it's when you have him as a father in your life instead of just looking at him as an almighty God, which is of course what he is, but when you're able to have that dialect and that conversation with him, you find the peace that he gives you without you even asking for it is tremendous. So it makes you think of having to do everything yourself less and understanding that the weight of this world is on God. And what's the weight of our problems? Minute compared to everything else. So I think prayer is definitely something I'd tell people to definitely do with whatever problem they're going through, whether it's struggling with substances, whether it's marriage, whatever the case may be. Just speak to God from the heart, and you will get the sign that you are asking for.
I am so shocked, man. Wow. What a great answer. What a great answer. I didn't know you were this deep.
Oh, you've never asked. You always just
Wow.
you
We
always just
always ask people. Maybe I need you as a guest on the podcast.
you always just
Wow.
say I have no hair. You haven't actually asked me anything about my hair. George,
Oh,
what
man.
would you say to someone?
Someone that's struggling, I think what we always say is the difference between the righteous and the wicked is the righteous gets up. So
Yeah.
that's really, two very big extremes. Someone who's righteous and someone who's wicked. The only difference between them is when the righteous man falls, he gets up. So don't ever be stuck in despair and ever
Mm.
feel that, I fell, that means I'm not worthy. That means, and then that cycle of despair and looping goes in your head and you say, okay, well, I'm not clean enough now to go to God. No, as soon as you fall, in the midst of falling, go back
Mm.
to God. Never ever let the devil trick you and tell you that you're not worthy or that, you need to kind of fix yourself first before you can go to God. Go to God running immediately, even if you have in the middle of falling, even if you've just fallen, even if you've fallen 10 times in a row, go back to God, and God will never ever turn you away. We had a guest on our show, our last guest, Jamie Zhu. Episode's going to come out very soon. He basically had all the success in the world. He's an influencer. He's got like 10 million followers, had all the success in the world, money, girls, travel, everything that you could ever hope for. And he felt so lost and so in despair. And he tried to go to all these extra things for like to get healing. And then he got demon possessed. And it was just really, really bad. The only thing he needed to do was, which touched my heart so much, someone invited him to go to church finally after his big despair. And he didn't know what to do, and he was demon possessed and blah, blah, blah. The moment that he went to the church and the church doors opened and he walked in, he said he felt a presence come over him, like, and he just started weeping, and he heard God's voice, and all he
Oh,
did literally was just walk one step into the church. Like he took one step towards God, and God just came running and rushing and straight to him. So I think, you just need to turn your face to God, and God will do the rest. But it's
Mm.
just that the devil doesn't want you to do that initial turn, and the devil tried to stop him from even approaching the steps of the church. As soon as he
right.
got there, that's all it took.
Yeah, that cycle of despair is really it's really tough on you when you're going through it, you know. And I've realized over time the devil used that to try to isolate you because it makes it that much easier for him to get at you when you are isolated. So like in your opinion, how important is like a church community and to be there regularly?
Without church and without church, there's no purpose for there's no I don't know how to word this without sounding ridiculous, but for me personally, I'll speak for myself. When I don't have the church in my life regularly, I slip so far away from God's presence and His love, and as a result of that, I then fall into the world's desires, into a, an everlasting hamster wheel that I just think I'm going to try and be successful, try and be this, try and be that. But the church community is so, so important because one, it keeps you so unbelievably grounded. And two, it allows you always to remember that no matter where you are in this world, no matter what stage in life you're at, God still loved you so much and died on the cross for you. The most perfect man died on the cross for you, for me, for George, for everyone. And if that's not a reminder to understand God's love and how much He loves you, then I don't know what is. For people who can't go to church, I completely understand. To have to just be able to read His Word, to read the Bible is a blessing in itself, absolutely. But if you can also if you're able to go to church, no matter where you are in the world, if you can visit a church, I definitely say run to it because as George mentioned, Jamie Zhu, someone who had the world basically the world's desires at his feet. He could have anything he ever wanted. The moment he stepped one foot into a church, his heart became open. His heart became just full of God, and that's the important thing. So I definitely say the church and its community, the people that are inside, are extremely, extremely important in one's faith.
I think we're so super blessed to have our church community. I see a lot of communities that, a lot of people that are lacking that community and
Mm,
the emptiness that they have. I mean, just a simple thing. You go to the gym, you join a gym or something like that, you see that, people are trying to connect with other people just to have a sense of community or a sense of belonging.
mm.
And, it will be like one of those gyms that, they have classes and whatever, and everyone's, oh, let's go to brunch, let's go to breakfast, let's go to this, let's do that. And I'm thinking, why are these people like hanging out so much together? I didn't understand it. I'm like, it's just a gym. Like, why are they like turning it into this
So tight
community?
knit, yeah.
And I realize
Right.
it's because everyone has this yearning for a community. So
Mm,
we're very blessed to have our community, thriving. The Coptic Church is a thriving community, and we have a lot of youth and a lot of things going on there. And I think um, definitely, if you are not in a church, you're missing out. Yes, you can have a personal relationship with God in your home, but that's not what God intended. God didn't intend, for someone to be alone That's not God's intention. God's intention is that we're the body of Christ. The church is the body of Christ. And we are one body when we come and unify together and we partake in the body and blood of Christ, then we are the church is a spiritual body of Christ. So I think it's super important. Whether you've had any bad experiences with churches or anything, put the pride aside, put everything aside, get to a church. It will change you, because when you're around people that have the same goals and same desire to be close to God, then you're going to find yourself always on. It's like a ship. You get on the ship and it's going towards heaven. You can either step on it or you can step off. When you're at church
Right.
regularly, it's like you're on that ship with everyone moving towards heaven. When you step off on your own, that's when you can start straying and losing focus, as Simon was mentioning. Like when
Mm.
he's out of that,
Yeah.
he feels he's out of it, he kind of goes off on a tangent.
Mm. If I could
Yeah.
also say, if
Go
sorry,
ahead.
sorry, Mike. If I could
No, go
also
ahead.
say a story. This was probably about four years ago. I wasn't going to church much, and George would always text me, call me, hey, what church you going to? What church you going to? And like I work 6 days a week, so obviously anyone on the seventh day just wants to rest or whatever the case may be. I felt like going to church on a Sunday so early. I'll do it next week, and next week never came. So then he came to me and he sort of stopped asking now, and then he had told me we're going to start doing an early mass. So at St. Mark's Church, there's an early mass every single day, headed by one of the fathers, and this was at what 5 to 7?
Yeah, 5 to
Yeah,
7.
5 to 7, and I'd always come up with an excuse to him. Oh, no license. Oh, work. Oh, this, and he just combated every excuse, and we had gone for a few months straight. Yes, there were some days I'd be asleep at the mass, but the important thing was going there. And the point to that was in those 3 months where I had started my day with God, I had noticed such a change in my life, whether it was just with me or the surroundings I kept. Like my usual habits at night would be, say, going out with my friends or trying to go have fun here and there. But I stopped wanting to do that because I changed my list of priorities. So I'd have church in the morning, so I want to go do that. And if you have a good person in your life, for in that case it was George, to where they hold you accountable and you make the commitment to go to church, you don't know it, but your life will change. It just naturally takes the course of changing. So that's definitely one example of how important the church is. So I wasn't going much. I went for 3 months straight with George, and I never felt better. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. I even like I notice in my own life nowadays, and the times I do stay consistent with church and I do stay consistent with communion and just certain things, my life is a bit different. And when I do start to slack off a little bit, it seems like life gets that much harder.
yeah.
And it's just not the same. And I do catch myself, every now and then slipping up and have to be reminded that I need to be there. Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's extremely important, and it's something that we don't give enough credit to sometimes because for one reason or another, sometimes people have bad experiences or have had, yeah, for whatever reason, that they don't continue to go. But what's some advice you would give somebody that has had maybe not too great of an experience at a particular church or a particular community? Um, yeah, but also realize how important it is.
Mm.
I think definitely realize that people are broken and people are not perfect. So if somebody let you down in church, it could be a clergy, could be a bishop, could be a priest, could be a Sunday school servant, could be whatever. They're not perfect. Don't put your emphasis on them. I know a lot of people sometimes get disappointed in their confession father because they think maybe it didn't support them as much in a certain circumstance. But then you're putting too much emphasis on the man. You're not. Our reliance has to be on God. These men and these servants are all tools that God has that benefit us and help us and guide us. And utilize them, of course, because they're beautiful and they're essential. But don't put all your hope and reliance on them, because if you do and they let you down, then there's a chance that you will get turned off God, which is the worst thing, because God is the perfect one that you can put all your reliance and all your hope. So it's all about shifting focus. Don't focus on the person or the preacher or the pastor or the priest or the clergyman. Don't focus on them. Focus on Christ and take what utilize them to the level that you're meant to utilize them. Let them be mediators, let them be guides, let them be, people that can point you in the right direction, but don't put all your hope on them. And at the same time, if you're uncomfortable at a certain church, go to another church.
Right.
Go. The important thing is go. I'm not saying change denominations, but I'm sure there's another. If you're going to an Orthodox church, go to another Orthodox church down the road or in a different suburb. If you have to travel an extra 20 minutes, but you feel comfortable, then do that. I remember Pope Shenouda was asked once, I don't, someone asked him a question on his weekly Wednesday meetings, and they asked him, I don't really like my confession father at the moment, not really comfortable with him. And he goes, my son, get another confession father. Like, it's
Yeah.
not that deep. Like, if you're not comfortable with him, find someone else that you're comfortable with. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
I agree.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, continue.
Yeah, no, I tend to hear that a lot from people is like they've had one or two bad experiences and they completely like, throw the baby with the bathwater and just completely toss the idea of going to church altogether.
Yep.
I want to ask a question, Mike. Sorry. I
Sure,
know it's
sure.
your podcast, but from this conversation, I can tell we've all sort of been through different walks of life in a way. And I'd love to hear from both of you, Mike and George, and I'm sure the viewers, I hope, will take something from this, but we'll start with Mike. What was a point in time where you definitely felt God playing a role in your life at whatever stage in your life, whether it was going through depression or maybe some addictions with certain drugs? What was a time where you felt sort of at your lowest, but you knew God was there? And how did he play a part in that?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely God showed up for me at the lowest points of my life, and the pivotal moment where I was like, yeah, I have to change something and something needs to be done different was in 2022. I ended up overdosing and crashing my car with my ex at the time in the car, and it was just one of those moments where having a near death experience will change you. For anybody that's ever experienced it, it will change you one way or another. Um, and that moment was honestly like yeah, it kind of threw me for a loop. It kind of made me just re-examine my whole life, what I was doing with my life, why I was even here. You get to a point where you're like, what am I even doing here? And during the moment of like the crash, I had this whole like outer body experience, and I don't know if you had seen the video, but 3 days after I had crashed. I had this like encounter with God, and some people, like I said, brush it off as something that might not be a real thing, but I can tell you, man, like it was real. It was as real as anything can possibly be, and it was one of those moments where it's one of those moments that will make your life. It's one of those moments where you'll never forget it. And yeah, since that day, it's been a journey back. Since that day, I'm not going to say it's been a complete 180 all of a sudden, no, but everything changed one way or another. And it was a slow progression, just trying to find God again. And I think God tends to use your lowest moments as these these pivotal moments where He's giving you an opportunity to change things. And I would like to hope the majority of people do change in that moment. It's sad to say that some don't, because that is the reality of the situation. But I do think He gives us all the same opportunity, and I do think He makes Himself makes Himself known to us during those moments. Like when I'm going through my worst depressions, when I'm withdrawing in a jail cell, when I'm overdosing and ending up in a hospital. It's just those moments I tend to see, I seen God more than any other moment in my life. And I think that says something about our God too. I really do. I feel like when everybody abandons you, he's there. And that's honestly like something that's just it's beautiful beyond words. Like it's something that you can't expect from a human. You just can't. It's just the only one that can give you that type of comfort and love and understanding is our God. There's it's so beautiful, man, that he'll meet you in your lowest place, the place where you don't even want him to be because you feel so ashamed. You feel like you've done everything incorrectly or wrong or everything to make you look so bad in the eyes of God. And in those moments is when he loves you the most. And I really think that that's something people should remember and that's something people should take into consideration because yeah, sometimes we feel like we're too broken to go back, or we've done too much bad to turn back, and that's not the case. That's so far from the truth. I think in those moments are when he shows you his most love because he knows you need it the most, you know. And yeah, I'm grateful for those moments because if it wasn't for those moments, I wouldn't have felt because you feel God's love during your highs, right, and your moments of success and happiness. But man, that's a different type of comfort when you're going through it and your world's falling apart, and He's standing right there with you. You know, it's something that can't be put into words. It's anything I say won't be good enough. You know, it just yeah, those moments show me how loving of a God we have, and those moments show me how much of a forgiving God we have. There's literally nothing as long as you turn back to Him that He will turn away and just won't accept. No, He wants you to come back. It doesn't matter where you are in life or like what you've dealt with, what you've been through. Like He wants you to turn and head in the right direction, you know. And He's always going to be there waiting. And it's just hard to comprehend sometimes when you're in those low moments because you don't feel worthy. You feel as worthless as you can possibly be, you know? And he uses those moments to just make it such a paramount moment in your life where it's just, he builds you from there. And what he builds from there is beyond anything you could have done yourself. There's just absolutely no way you could have even reached that potential without him. And understanding that has been life changing, man, to say the least.
Can you tell us about that encounter that you had?
Yeah, yeah. So I overdosed and I crashed my car. I had a whole experience there where like an angel showed me like my whole timeline of my life, you know, and kind of showing me every single little decision, man, and like was showing me these like different outcomes of I was above myself, seeing myself kind of just laid on the ground. And I it would show me the scenario where okay, I was passed away, my family was standing around me crying. Another scenario where like my ex at the time had passed away and her family around me crying. So all these like scenarios of what could have happened. And then I got taken to jail. I detoxed out at the jail. And then exactly 3 days after that, I was back at my house, and my dad had called me, and he had gotten a dream from my grandma that had passed away already. And she was just telling him like, oh, like Mike's gonna be okay, like you don't have to worry about him, stuff like that. And that really like could really choke me up because me and my grandma were really close, and for her to feel like she intervened to just comfort my dad like that kind of like broke me a bit, you know. And it was I had a pain pill left in my room, and after I hung up the phone with him, I just went and I flushed it, right. And as soon as I flushed it, I my spirit just got like taken out of my body. It was really weird, and I really tried to make sense of it for quite some time, and I couldn't, you know, there was nothing other than like divine intervention that made sense. And so my spirit was just, it was pulled up and then pulled down. And it was another angel kind of taking me down these like levels of hell, so to say. Like, and it was just kept showing me these like worse and worse and worse levels. And then as I was getting to like the last where like hell is, you know, where everybody is, this light just came from above and like hit my shoulder, and like I flew up, right? Like I was just like a ball of light, and I kind of flew up, and I was in front of just like, it was God, man. I don't care what it, you know what I'm saying, what anybody says or thinks. Like it was just this big like ball of light. I say it all the time. It looks like the sun. It looked like the sun, but it wasn't hot. It was just really comforting and warm and loving. Like the best feeling I probably ever experienced. And even then, like me trying to compare it to something I've experienced here doesn't even come close. Um, and he was pretty much just like telling me stuff, but it was more of like in a telepathic way. Like I wasn't like hearing it with my ears. It was just kind of just being put into my brain, kind of, even though like yeah, I wasn't in my body. So all of it, it was really hard to make sense of, you know, and the feeling of like comfort and love and just peace. It felt like this life was a dream. It felt like this one was a dream and that one was just real. And I didn't want to come back. I remember that feeling specifically because yeah, I didn't want to come back. I wanted to stay there, and he told me I have to go back, and gave me some things. Like he told me a few things I'll share that I spoke about on the video I had made. One saying that like the reason I'm here and the reason I'm even saved is because of my faith. And at the time, I didn't think I had any faith at all. I not even close, you know, like I didn't think like that was even something that you can put next to my name, Faith and Mike. That doesn't even, you know, like add up. But and another thing was him telling me that I have to tell people about what happened because it's going to help people, and it's going to help people that were in my particular situation where it comes to like addiction and you know being in those low places. But it took me years for me to get that story out. I recorded it multiple times. I just couldn't put it out. I don't know if it was like me thinking people were going to think I'm crazy, or people just wouldn't understand, or just being embarrassed. I don't know. I don't know. But it never got out. I made a TikTok before, posted it, deleted it. It was just this constant thing of like trying to get it out, and I wouldn't let myself get it out, you know? But when people tell me God's not real, man, like there's like it's hard for me not to like just laugh and be like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. Like you really don't understand. Like it's real, man. Like it's real, and he's real, and everything that we've learned about him is real. And it was a life changing moment to say the least. And I man, the next day, like I literally, like it was a Saturday, and there was church on Sunday, and I ran to church, man. I didn't have a car at the time, but the church was like maybe like a 10-minute walk from where I was staying. And I booked it there, man. And as soon as I had a chance to talk to Father Lazarus, I was like breaking down, like trying to get out the story, you know. And he's like looking at me, just smiling and telling me, like, "Oh, like I can see something in your eyes," you know. And yeah, it was just life changing, man. And honestly, I wish more people could experience that firsthand, because if they did, I guarantee you they would not believe any doubt about God. That wouldn't even cross their mind. It was one of those moments that
It's like a reference
it's
point. You can always go back to it
yeah,
now.
yeah. And it's
Amazing.
yeah, it's one of those where like it had such an impact on my life, dude. Like when I tell you, like my life was like, bro, I was a full blown junkie. I was as depressed. I was suicidal. I was just, it was so bad, man, so bad. And that moment, just that one moment, changed everything. And again, it didn't change overnight, but it gradually started to just change. And like the knowledge of what I just experienced wasn't going anywhere. There wasn't erasing that. There wasn't trying to like even make sense of it. You knew what happened. And then as humans, our rational mind is to try to rationalize it and try to make it make sense. And it just didn't, man. The only thing that made sense was like God like intervened, you know, and yeah, dude, like that, it still gives me like the chills, and I still kind of get like a way speaking about it because, like I said, this isn't something that other than like my close family that I've spoken to about it, or like Father Lazarus, like there's only like a handful of people that I've actually like spoke to about it, and I never really went too in depth about it because it would take forever, man. Like it felt like so much happened in such a short amount of time, but in reality, it was only like like I want to say like an hour, like and
Yeah.
that I've had that experience, you know. And even when I like got back, so to say, and my asked my ex at the time, I was like, hey, was I like saying anything? Was I acting different? And she was like, no, you were just sitting there, but you seemed like just completely disconnected. Just I was just there apparently. Like I don't remember because I wasn't in my human body at the time, you know. I was my spirit was elsewhere, man. And yeah, yeah, man, I wish people could experience that firsthand.
I find it very interesting the way you told your story because we just had Father Bishoy, episode 11, which just launched this week, and he was telling a story about someone who had an out of body experience where they actually died and came back to life. They died on an operating table while doing a surgery for an appendix, and they
Yeah,
declared him dead. He was dead for like, a couple of minutes, and then out of nowhere he just got up and he told his story, and there's a lot of comparisons to your story. He said that he was looking at himself above, and he could see the people trying to resuscitate him, and that he was like dead. And then he said that his soul like got sucked like almost like into like a tube, a dark tube, and
yeah,
it just went
yeah,
from one level of darkness to another level of darkness to another level of darkness until it got to the very darkest point.
yeah.
And it's exactly how you described it. So he
And
had
I
a
haven't seen that episode, man. I didn't.
yeah,
I haven't. You know, like,
it's
and
amazing. So he
I've
described it the
told
same.
this. Yeah, I've told the same exact thing to people for the last like 3 years. I've been
Yeah.
trying to, you know, like get people to be like, "Hey, dude, like this is real, man. Like, there's no doubt about it. This is real." And honestly, I'm blessed to have experienced it because if it wasn't for that, I don't think my life would have took a turn the way it did. I think him knowing me and him knowing the person I am, it had to be such a drastic thing to wake me up, or else I wouldn't have got the point. And I'm so grateful for it, man. Like I beyond words. Like I'm so grateful for it because yeah, life is different now, man. I would have never in a million years thought I would be doing a podcast that's Orthodox based, talking about God. That never would have crossed my mind, dude. Ever, ever, ever. And to see how He uses people, like I said, in your lowest moments,
Yeah.
it shows you how loving He is.
Honestly, I think it's a sign from God that He's got big plans for you. For Him to give you that big revelation, I think definitely God did that because He knows that, you have a big calling. And that big calling is, like you said, being able to speak from that vantage point that, some like other people can't speak from that vantage point, and to say that you went down that path and came back, that is priceless, honestly. So I think definitely God is using you, and may He keep using you, man, to spread that, because it's beautiful. Don't ever be ashamed of that story. It's a beautiful story and definitely has truth to it, like 100%.
Thank you, man. Biggest concern of mine, like even with this podcast thing, is to let it transpire into something that goes into helping people with addiction and helping people that are homeless and that are in need. Because man, if it wasn't for the support I had, if it wasn't for my family, I'd be in the same boat, man. I wasn't too far from it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was right there, and I was doing drugs on and off for 15 years before that. I didn't really have a sober week, you know, and it just got worse and worse and worse until like the only thing left was, well, this is you're gonna leave this earth, man, and it's not gonna be fun, you know. And yeah, I think it's really, really important that we like I said, make it to where people are able to talk about those things. Um, because a lot of the times they want to get better and they want to, you know, fix their life. They just don't know how. At least like in my, I didn't know how. I didn't understand what steps were necessary. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's so important because these people aren't bad people, dude. Like they're not. They just made a few bad decisions and now they're in a bad spot. But when I'm telling you, it could happen to anybody. It could really happen to anybody, and I see it happen more and more. And it really like it breaks my heart, um, especially when you talk to these people and they're genuinely good people, dude. Like they have a good heart. They're not bad people. They just they a few bad choices, and you know, like you'll end up in a place you never expected. So I definitely want that to be a goal of mine is to help people in that same situation.
Amazing. Can I ask what was the starting point of you going down that path? Like, is there a specific moment that you kind of took that road and it led down that road, or was it just, you know, something happened here, something happened there, and eventually you found yourself there, or was it a specific situation where you said, oh, that opened this door that kind of gave you that kind of temptation in your life?
It was like a gradual increase. I started when I was in middle school. One because so my parents are first generation out here. They immigrated, so I'm sorry, I'm first generation. So they didn't know the culture. I have a younger brother, but I had nobody older than me to kind of guide me through things. So the place we ended up moving to when we first got here wasn't the greatest neighborhoods. Just kind of got mixed in with the wrong crowd. You didn't really have people around you. Um, and just one thing leads to another, man. And you find yourself in a situation where you don't know how to fix it. And as time went on, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And then you don't see it getting worse. You think it's like it's okay, it's not too bad until you try to stop. And then it's a problem, you know? And then yeah, when I ended up I have a gunshot wound in my hand. I got prescribed Oxycontin, and from there, when I stopped getting it from my doctor, I was withdrawing really bad. So I just went to go buy some, but it ended up being fentanyl. And after I did that a couple times, I was stuck, man. I tried to stop fentanyl probably like I'll say 8, 9 times to where like I went to the hospital, I went to rehabs, like I genuinely tried because that was the only thing where I felt hopeless. I legit felt hopeless. I did not know how I was gonna get out of this. It was one of those where I'm like, dude, like this is it. Like this is how we're gonna die. I completely gave up after like the sixth time. Just like, man, I don't even know if I keep doing this. And then somebody would try to encourage me to go try again. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, dude, this is not gonna work. Like it's one of those things where it's when it has a hold on you, it's it's almost impossible to just shake off, you know? You really need like a good plan, you need good support around you, and you need to be serious about wanting to get clean. And that mixed in with being depressed and having thoughts about harming yourself or whatever the case may be, it's not a good combination. But I mean, the devil thrives in that scenario. He uses that, and man, he takes advantage of that. And yeah, dude, and I see it. I see it with other people too. Sometimes they'll go in for like a broken arm or like something that just happened, and they'll get prescribed for maybe 2 3 months, and then now all of a sudden they're withdrawing without the meds, and then they go try to buy them, and maybe they get something fake, or maybe they just find a cheaper alternative, which is like I said, like fentanyl, and it's it's one of those things you do it one time and it has you. And I know that sounds like cliche of all drugs, but no, dude, like that one in particular, that one, if you try it once, it has you. If it doesn't kill you the first time, it has you. And it's not anything that's like you can just shake off. But I do think it was, yeah, if there was a community or if there was like people I could turn to or people that understood what was going on, I don't think that would have been as big as a problem as it was. But because there wasn't, it was just like that was just the easiest route, I guess. And as a kid being 15 years old, like, and nobody to turn to, like, yeah, you're kind of gonna go with whatever advice sounds okay, you know. And it wasn't always the best advice, and it just, you know, you get into this lifestyle where it's really hard to shake and it's really hard to change, especially when you don't have an alternative. Like it's cool to want to stop, but if you don't have anything to replace it with, that's almost impossible. You need to replace it with something healthy, you know? And
I've heard that advice a lot, actually. That
yeah,
if you don't just stop the sin, you have to replace it.
right. Yeah, and it's true because you just like you stop and you just have this like this free time and this like this mind that just gets racing and you don't know what to do with it, you know? And the only thing that makes sense is to go use because that's what you know the most and that's what's been comforting you all these years. So it's definitely necessary for you to have a healthy replacement. Um, but yeah, dude, I mean, I do think just a lot of kids nowadays are just lost, man. They just, that's all it is. They just don't have anybody to turn to, or they don't have any like understanding of what a healthy life looks like or what a healthy relationship with God looks like. You know, they, they just, yeah, they're just lost, man. That's really all it is. And I think like love, especially God's love, like that's the only thing that's going to fix it, you know? Um, or that's the only thing that I know will for sure fix it, you know? Um, yeah, dude, I really think that that's the only solution to all this is to have a good relationship with God and he can fix it. Trust me, like he can he can get the job done, you know? It just we have to be willing to surrender and that's hard to do sometimes, you know, to give up control, especially when you're not getting like results right away, especially when it's just like you're basing it off faith and you're just kind of you have to just trust that he'll take care of it, you know? But if you haven't had experiences in your life where God has already done that for you, it's kind of hard for you to just trust, you know? Just being humans, it's hard to trust another human, but we're not understanding that God works in different ways. And it's very
It's
hard to
impossible.
surrender. Yeah.
So, let's say, other than the divine intervention that you had, what's the number
Yeah.
one thing that helped you get out of it that you can kind of pass on to somebody who's struggling right now? What's the number one thing that you did to get you out of it, rather other than just thinking back about that divine intervention that you had?
Yeah, I think it's having people around you that have your best interest in mind. So, like, if it wasn't for certain people in my family, certain people that were my friends, people like Father Lazarus. Father Lazarus tried to get me to go to rehabs and go to hospitals and get clean more times than I can count. If it wasn't for people trying to help, yeah, it's very, very, very hard. I would say almost impossible to do on your own. I don't think it's a good idea to do on your own. One, because you need support, but two, you need emotional support. It's not just the physical part of it. No, like you deal with so much like because you've been numbing out your emotions for so long that when they all come rushing back in, you don't know what to do with them and you need somebody to help you navigate that. So anybody that's like dealing with that particular situation, I would encourage them to get some people around them that and just be honest with the people that love you. As much as you feel like it might be embarrassing or you're gonna get judged for it or whatever, they get in trouble, whatever. I guarantee you that outcome is a lot better than the alternative. That outcome of you being judged or people being mad at you or whatever the case may be is a lot better than what could happen when you just keep it all to yourself. And I even encourage people that don't even know me, like, please reach out to me. I would love to, you know, try to help if I can, if not kind of direct you in the right way. Cause man, that's a really dark place to be. It's
Yeah.
not fun, man. It's not fun, and it's a very, very low place in life where you feel like nothing is going to get you out of it. And that feeling of hopelessness, man, the devil thrives on that. He
Yeah.
loves that. He will keep you there for as long as he can. And that's something that I think can only be battled and fought off with people that love you and believe, and you need to believe God loves you.
100%. I'm so glad that you shared that, and I think people will take a lot out of that, and hopefully we'll definitely when we post this episode, we'll put your uh Instagram link so people can reach out to you if they need to, because I think
Yeah,
you definitely help people in that position.
This is to answer your question earlier. This is the why. This is the purpose of why we do what we do, because for people, they may see you and be like, oh, he's interviewed priests, he's done all this, but they don't know the struggle that it's taken for you to get here, the life that you had to live in order for you to come out of the other side and now be able to preach the word of God. Because you said it yourself, God knows your personality. God may know the stubbornness that you carry, to where it could be a small fall and you'll get back up a little bit, but then you'll start falling again. So he had to nearly take your life, show you the outcomes in order for you to really wake up. And it's never a loss in life, it's only a lesson. And you learned a lot, I'll tell you that. Just hearing that
right.
story is unbelievable, to see how far one side you were compared to where you are now. And obviously you're still struggling, as we all are, but just to see, if you were to look at yourself from 2022 to now, you'd say to yourself, man, Mike's a completely different person. So it's honestly a blessing what God puts us through, whether it's the struggle in life or it's the beauty of life. It's a blessing in everything, because we learn, and we're able to show others that maybe they don't have to go through that, but learn from our mistakes. So
Yeah,
it's
no,
a blessing.
absolutely. Yeah, and I, like I said, I appreciate what you guys do, because in those like moments, you do want, you need some positivity. So
Mm.
channels like yours, channels like other Christian channels, other things that give you a little bit of hope, and have way more of an impact than you think. Especially when you are in those moments. So I really think, man, you guys are doing a great job. Continue doing what you're doing. Yeah, and I wish you guys like nothing but blessings, man. You guys are amazing.
Thank you so much. You too, man. We are so blessed to have met you and heard about your journey. And I think, you're at the very beginning stage of your ministry, because you're going to do a lot of good things. And I can see that. It's clear as day. Like, God is going to use you. And I think use that purpose to keep moving forward, because God has given you that purpose to help people in ways that we can't. So definitely keep that going. And like, another point that I'll say is, what's beautiful about technology and social media, which, is the reach is unbelievable. I mean, we have people in Kenya, we had people in Saudi Arabia, we had people in Armenia, we had people in UK.
Worldwide.
We're not just
Right.
bound by our territory or our church doors. Now, the whole world can benefit. So definitely your message is very powerful. And, hopefully we can propagate it and get more people to subscribe, so it pushes the content out more, and we get more reach around the world where people need it.
No, absolutely. And like I said, man, just keep doing what you guys are doing, because trust me, it's helping a lot more people than you can possibly imagine.
And one more thing, if I can add, just if a piece of advice we can give to you, just remain how you are. Be what brought you to the dance. Be authentic. Be so transparent, because people love that. They don't want some phony. They don't want someone just trying to preach and carry on. But if you're just transparent and you tell them not only the highs of life, but the lows of lows, man, just I'm speaking to you like from the heart, from what I was hearing. It's a beautiful journey that you've been on. Definitely a rough one, but you've definitely come out the other side much better, thank God. And man, just stick to being you, because like George said, Mike, you got a very, very bright future, I hope, of just bringing people closer to God, which is the ultimate goal in life that anyone can ask for. To be able to reflect God in our actions, in our everyday actions, is is a blessing we all wish to have. So keep doing you, Mike, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
and thank
guess
you
it's
guys for,
5
taking
a.m.
some
your
time
time.
out. Yeah. Thank you guys for taking some time out to do this. I know we've been going for quite a bit right now, but yeah, I really am grateful that you guys, took some time to do an interview, because I think it's important for people to get to know you guys as well as why you're doing what you're doing.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for giving us the opportunity. Simon always was telling me, maybe we should have an episode where we talk about us and why we did this. And I was like, oh, I don't want it to be about us. Let's be about the guest. Let's be about the next thing. But I think it's important because it's good that people know what our motives are. So I thank you so much for giving us that opportunity.
Oh, not a problem. And when you make it out to LA, let me know, and I'll gladly show you guys around. And who knows, I'll
We're
make
gonna
it out
take
to
you to a
Australia
basketball
one
game.
day. Yeah,
I'm gonna take you to an NBA game.
Yeah, we can do that.
Hopefully we don't drag it out too long. I don't want to go with 2 40-year-old men. So
uh, thank you guys so much, man, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys in the future.